First, I'd like to say that this is really a key part of what I see as the area initiative that is going to be part of I think, building a 21st century leadership and governance structure for the sport. I'm here to have a discussion about whatever you like. I'd like people to say whatever you want at any time, open questions at any time, discussion at any time, because frankly I think if this year proves anything, and it's what I truly believe in as president of the association, is that the only way this sport will survive is through open, frank conversation, and a lot of it. And one thing that we've all seen too this year is that, you know, we're very disputatious. We are a group that likes to argue. We're very opinionated, and I do think that that is our strength as well as our weakness. My job, as I see it, is to make sure that this sport is strong, vibrant, and moving forward 5 years, 10 years, 25 years from now. If we can do that, we'll all be successful. If this sport remains intact and remains something that the next generation can enjoy as we. That's kind of what my perspective is on the things I'd like to talk to you about today, because I came to the sport as an adult. I was 30 years old before I ever actually sat on a horse, to tell you the truth. And I didn't start eventing until 15 years ago. And it was the biggest eye-opener in my life. I mean, when you are an adult over 30 and you look at something and you say, my God, they made the perfect sport. I mean, we have that just childlike glee that you found something that is so incredibly wonderful. You know, you become very passionate about it. I'd like to tell you what my perspective is on where the sport is and where I think it's going and where I think our big challenges are. And I see three very important challenges. One is the economic model of the sport. We're in a severe recession, and we're seeing our economic model in virtually every aspect of our lives tested. But I think that there's going to be a real test in eventing because of the tension between the avocation world, the world where it is a passion and it is a culture, and it's almost a cult. I mean, it's a bunch of people who are so focused on how wonderful this is that we do unreasonable things to make sure we can keep doing it. It's that, and it's the new last 10 years, the trend toward trying to make it a business. And a business, sometimes, I'm not really talking about events so much, because I'll get to those. I'm talking about the model of trainers, often based on the hunter-jumper model. And the tension between those two things, I think, is going to really show us something in the next couple of years. And I think that creates a great challenge for us moving forward, and we'll get to that. The second is the leadership and generational challenge, and I touched on that a little bit before. I think we need a new set of leaders going forward. You know, I've spent 15 years now in this sport, and one thing that I've seen at the dance is that everyone's still at the dance, but they're 15 years older. They're the same people, often in the same position. And at some point, the actuarial tables catch up with all of us. And we do need, you know, who is that Jimmy Wofford we've talked about here today? Who is the Jimmy Wofford of the new generation? He's 25 years old right now. We need to find those people and get them involved. And then there's the safety challenge, which is inexorably in the information age linked to the public relations challenge. But there is a real safety challenge in this sport, and we need to focus everything we've got on that challenge too. And I would argue to you that all three of those challenges are very, very closely interwoven in a lot of ways. But as we have the discussion going forward throughout the next couple of years and on in this sport, that we focus on creative ways, using our tools, using tools like the internet, which is, I mean, I don't care what your politics are. Look at what Barack Obama's campaign did with the internet. The internet has possibilities that have barely been tapped. And I think we need to think about how we can creatively use the passion and energy and the potential of our sport to solve these problems. And we never want to solve them to the point where it's not the wonderful sport it is now, which is, you know, frankly a bit counter to the grain of a lot of American culture and a lot of other cultures too, in that it allows people to take responsibility, it allows people to take risk, it allows us to enjoy doing something with our horses that they enjoy more than just about anything. And let me start with the economic footing of the sport, which just fascinates me. This is 2008 starters, January 1st to October 27th, USEA won all the eras. This is 2007, the same analysis. Now, recognize that there is some apples to oranges here because new events come on, events change dates, some things can change here. Went from 43,000 starters in 2007 to approximately 40,000 starters in 2008 during the same period. So a drop of about 3,200 or almost 8%. But one thing that we were focusing on early in the season, particularly about in April and May, was the price of diesel fuel. And the Admin and Finance Committee started just almost week by week tracking starter numbers to see whether there was a drop-off because of something we've talked about somewhat today, which was suddenly where diesel fuel's at $4.50 a gallon, are people going to stop going to events? And how's that going to be reflected in places where you have to drive a long way to an event? Interestingly, we didn't see a heck of a big drop-off up till August. But we did find that in the September-October timeframe particularly, the numbers dropped fairly rapidly. I mean, I suspect that the line between, you know, the intersection of economic pain and I'm going to do this passion no matter what is you know, that intersection is pretty high in our sport. But having said that, I think that it's also very possible that we're going to see a lot of people who keep their horses, keep training their horses, but do fewer events next year. So that's the overlay, and all we can do with that is track it, prepare for it, make sure that we're fiscally sound as an organization. But I think that the kind of the more interesting question, that this just may, you know, be the crucible in which we see the answer, is the, I guess what I'd call the two bubble mentalities that exist side by side in this sport. There's what I see the grassroots bubble mentality. And this is from people at the lower levels, and or actually people at all levels, frankly, but it certainly isn't something that just has to do with elite level riders. And I get a lot of this because so many people communicate to me with their beefs or their, sometimes their praise of events. I mean, I do get a lot of that, but I have a lot of people who will call me up and say, well, let me give you an example. Rebecca Farm, I don't know if anyone here has been to Rebecca Farm, but it is just a spectacular venue in Montana. Rebecca Broussard and Jerome Broussard have developed, and they have poured tremendous resources and more importantly their own time and passion into it. And it is one of the most beautiful eventing venues in the world. I mean, everyone who goes there says that. And I've had people call me after that event and say, you know, and just bitterly complain about some very minor mistake that the office made or something, which really had nothing to do with the outcome of their experience, except that they wanted it to. But then they always use the capstone line for me, which is, I'm their customer. And I think, you're their customer. It's like, if you're their customer, you should have paid $2,500 for your entry fee, because what they're really doing is subsidizing your avocation. Rebecca and Jerome Broussard are never going to see a profit from doing this. I think they get tremendous psychic profit from doing it, and I think they love it, and it's that passion that really makes us such a wonderful group, and they're part of what's really good about the sport. But for someone to say, I'm their customer, is to just completely misunderstand the economics of the sport.